From the surface, they can't even be seen. Zebra and quagga mussels, an invasive species that have completely upended Lake Michigan.
When zebra and quagga mussels came over to the Great Lakes, they found very suitable conditions and their populations exploded.
The zebra mussels came first, and the quagga mussels, which have been colonizing even deeper water, came next.
This is a mix of quagga and zebra mussels together.
Brought in by the ballast water in shipping vessels, these mussels traveled in from overseas. Zebra mussels are more well known.
This is what you would see on your dock. It's primarily what we have in inland lakes.
It's quaggas that are having a deeper impact because they can colonize in deeper water.
So they're covering Lake Michigan from Michigan to Wisconsin and as deep as 900 feet.
Quagga mussels take out the good algae. They take out the algae that's palatable that all the other organisms want to eat.
Zebra mussels, quagga mussels have really changed the lake's capacity to hold salmon and trout and things like that. So their catch rates are probably half of what they used to be, but their trips are about the same. So people are getting used to catching less fish, but they're pretty good quality fish.
Yeah! Invasive species upheaval has happened before. In the 1940s, nightmarish-looking sea lamprey arrived in Lake Michigan, striking a lethal blow to lake trout. By the mid-50s, the commercial lake trout industry on Lake Michigan became nearly extinct. In the 60s, alewife arrived, exploding in droves, dying in heaps, and littering the beach. Bulldozers were needed to clear the stinking piles of dead fish. To this day, salmon are being stocked into Lake Michigan, keeping alewife in check and the fishing industry healthy. But quaggas are largely to blame for what's happening to the whitefish.
Well, whitefish are in major decline right now.
If whitefish can't learn to thrive in rivers, scientists say it could mean a complete collapse to the whitefish commercial industry. Eventually, quaggas will be kept in check. But it's likely they will never fully go away, meaning the clear water is here to stay.
Clear water does not always mean clean water. You can see through it, but it doesn't mean it's contaminant-free. And if you have mussels that are concentrating contaminants, and then the fish eat the mussels, and humans eat the fish, it's actually another way for the contaminants to get to humans.
Coming up, how the clearest water in decades is creating a golden age for shipwreck scuba divers and hunters. And how the same species that is clearing the water is also threatening to destroy some of the same wrecks it's making easier to see.
While there are wrecks all over the Great Lakes, some of them aren't even a mile away from shoreline.
People from all over the planet head to the Great Lakes just to scuba dive. The fresh, cold water preserves wrecks better than any other place in the world. Dusty Cliffman has been diving since he was 13. Now he's one of the only people with enough training to dive very deep into Lake Michigan. Most divers have to stop after reaching about 100 feet. Dusty can plummet to several hundred. He says the biggest draw is to find forgotten shipwrecks.
There's still a lot out here that hasn't been found.
Out of the 600 shipwrecks thought to be lost in Lake Michigan, only about 210 have been found. Most stay hidden because they're just too deep. The average depth of Lake Michigan comes in at 279 feet, dropping to more than 900 at its deepest. The goal of finding a lost shipwreck isn't to plunder. Instead, hunters search to preserve.
Experiencing the history of it, it's like a sunken time capsule that you get to explore very intimately.
Every wreck holds a piece of history, but there is an added benefit in diving deep. Shipwrecks here are almost perfectly preserved, the clock seeming to stop on the day they went down.
These aren't degraded. There's glass in the windows, the steering wheels are there, the masts are standing. A lot of them look just like they're sitting at the dock, essentially.
Wrecks close to shore are a different story. Today we are diving a mile offshore of Ludington. The wreck? A ship that was lost in the Armistice Day storm back in 1940. As we explore, it's clear the vessel has seen some wear. Not only are pieces scattered, which can be expected in a wreck, the boat is completely covered in quaggas.
The first coatings actually came fairly quick. You know, within the season, you could see that it was going to start covering things. It was spotty at first, but you'd get patches and patches, and the patches just started growing.
Benthic species are what live on the bottom of the lake bed.
Dr. Ashley Elgin is a quagga mussel expert. She's been studying the invertebrate for almost 10 years. She says quaggas are a problem on every Great Lake except for Superior.
Lake Superior has very low and marginal levels of calcium, and mussels are present there, but they don't have the large populations, expanding populations like every other Great Lake.
Something else too, quaggas look different depending on the depth.
You know, it has a slender form, it has a lighter color, but it is the same species as what you're seeing right here. So that's a deep water quagga mussel and a shallow water quagga mussel.
This matters because the mussels that attach to the shallow water wrecks are bigger. Their added weight, coupled with the steady wave action close to shore, makes wrecks more likely to collapse. The ships most at risk are the ones most accessible to divers and tourists.
To the point where some of the wooden wrecks would get so heavy, the deck would push down and the sides would collapse and it would all pancake out.
Still, what's happening now is being called the golden age of diving on the Great Lakes. Because of quaggas, the water has never been this clear. Local dive shops say business is booming.
Our divers love to do what they can to help protect the lakes.
Some are diving in to help scrape away the mussels. Others are starting scuba because of the incredible visibility. Clarity that's noticeable even at very deep.
Out further away from the shoreline, you get 100-foot, 120-foot visibility a lot.
The water of Lake Michigan is now clear enough to look for shipwrecks by using a drone.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
These rovers can help pinpoint where deep water wrecks have landed. If the water was quagga free, visibility would be so poor, it just wouldn't work.
See what I mean? Like everything is literally covered in quagga.
Mussels are helping searchers save history. But for scientists, they're costing research future breakthroughs.
Where we were looking for fungi off the bottom of the Great Lakes with the hope of being able to find some chemicals, some compounds that might have some medical use. Our specific focus was pediatric cancers, looking for compounds that might be effective against pediatric cancers.
The solid carpet of mussels are crowding out the local species, making it hard to find anything medically new.
We lose that opportunity before we even know it's there.
Coming up, in the face of invasive species, one nonprofit is taking preservation to a whole new level.
The Air Zoo in Portage has a special back room.
It's all passion.
In it, you'll find parts, pieces of planes, and a dedicated group of volunteers.
This is like a dorsal fin.
This restoration team is working to breathe life into a 1940 FM2 Wildcat.
These two sections here were extremely difficult to make, but very creative, and when you're done, you go, yes!
It's taken years to restore the Wildcat to its original glory, even with the help of more than 1,000 volunteers.
When you view the pictures, the before pictures, when they roll up in front of the museum, it's like people can't believe it. It's like, you're not going to fix that, are you?
The plane spent 68 years beneath the water, but most of the new damage happened right before it was raised.
While broken, it was in pristine condition. They saw a couple of fish going around, but really it looked great. 3 years later, in December of 2012, they went down to bring this aircraft up, and to everyone's surprise, 200 feet deep, there were mussels all over it.
Mussels can be a kiss of death to a metal artifact.
Fresh water doesn't corrode metal very quickly, but these quagga mussels attaching themselves to the metal, creating this acidic environment, has really damaged this aircraft.
There's still about 80 World War II aircraft at the bottom of Lake Michigan waiting to be rescued.
And after seeing the damage that those quagga mussels had done in just a couple of years, we probably only have maybe 3 years left to recover any other historically significant aircraft.
It's been 30 years and we still haven't cracked the quagga problem.
The most important thing that we can do is to prevent other species from arriving in the future.
We can have policies in place that say, oh, you can't import invasive species, non-native species into the Great Lakes Basin. But there's been fairly lax enforcement of those policies, of those laws and regulations.
Because if we've learned anything from our invasive past, it's that Lake Michigan is surprisingly vulnerable. A giant lake that can ultimately be controlled by changes that would otherwise seem very small.